Hello, everybody.
Guys, welcome to the podcast. You're probably wondering why we didn't worry about mic levels before we started.
Yeah, and that's because we don't care at
I don't have
all.
a good answer for you.
Yeah, we don't
You
care
know,
about
I also don't
mic.
need to explain that. You know,
We don't care about mic quality here. We
we
just
don't
care about quantity of
just
episodes.
care about how much hot content we're putting on the interwebs.
That's right. We don't care at all about you.
And I've posted exactly one clip.
Yeah. Okay, so today is episode 8. We have some people. Hello, everyone in the chat. Welcome in.
Hello, chat.
Hello, chat. Today we're talking about one-shots, correct?
Yeah, we're just gonna throw around some ideas. And
Yes, we are.
You know,
But before we
see
do that,
the wall.
before
Oh.
we do that, I wanted to talk about some recent news that has been happening as of yesterday, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
D&D Beyond, please sponsor us. D&D Beyond was acquired by Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast, which is a
Wizards
big
of
deal.
Waverly Place.
That's pretty freaking sweet. If you don't know what D&D Beyond is, you'll hear us talk about it all the time. We've definitely probably already talked about it before. But D&D Beyond is a website where you can buy source books online. You can make characters. You can homebrew your own items or spells or equipment. And they give you a lot to work with in terms of customization for your games, whether you're a DM or a player. And I use D&D Beyond all the time, both as a DM and when I play. I make all my characters through D&D Beyond. I think it's the best thing ever. You can keep everything in one place. They have a ton of cool features, like if you're in a campaign with other people, you can set up like a campaign and everyone can upload their characters there so that the DM has access to them all, as well as all of the players and everyone in the campaign has access to all of the source books that one another have bought on the website. So you can use different source books or material when it comes to like making characters, or using specific items that are, only in one source book. So anyways, that's a little bit about what D&D Beyond is. We love D&D Beyond so much. D&D Beyond, please sponsor us. We would love for you to sponsor us, please. But they just got acquired by Wizards of the Coast. So for a long time, and I should have looked this up before we started, but I believe for a long time, D&D Beyond basically had the license for Dungeons and Dragons, so they were allowed to, sell the content and use the content and whatnot. And they kind of had like an affiliate license. But as of yesterday, the 13th, I believe, Wizards of the Coast actually acquired D&D Beyond, and D&D Beyond now is owned by Wizards of the Coast, which is really, really cool for a bunch of reasons. Because, first off, they have a massive budget now, which is great. Second, a lot of the D&D Beyond content is now going to be, it could potentially change to work a lot better with a lot of the physical stuff that Wizards of the Coast sells, specifically in Dungeons and Dragons. I know we were already talking about how it would be, we long for the ability to, when you buy a physical copy of a book, having maybe a code in it or something, which automatically allows you to have it on D&D Beyond. Because as of now, you basically have to buy the book twice if you want the online version and the physical version. And I've done that with a few of the books because I think the physical version looks cool. But sometimes, as a DM, the online version's a lot easier in a lot of ways, because you can search specific keywords and things like that and find things. And it's all on a computer. You don't have to haul a book around. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be really cool. I can't really necessarily think of any other features off the top of my head, like at this moment, that I would hope would kind of transfer over. But I know also announced, which we should talk about next week, is they have also announced basically like a D&D um, like round table or like a D&D update thing Wizards of the Coast did.
Oh,
It's going to be like a live stream where they're going to
okay.
just talk about all the new Dungeons and Dragons content coming out.
So are they starting a podcast? Are we
No,
competing?
no, it's just like a live stream event. It's kind of like, like E3. It's like one of those.
Okay.
But it's just D&D content. So they'll probably talk about the acquisition. Is that the right
Sure.
word? Acquisition.
Sounds
And
right.
potentially what the future for D&D Beyond holds, as well as other things that are coming out. So we should definitely actually hit on that next week, now that I'm thinking about
Sure.
it. But yeah, I think it could be really cool. I can't necessarily think of any topics or other features I'd like to see off the top of my head. Can you think of any? But I think other than that one, which is,
Like
if you buy a
not having
physical,
to buy books twice would be
yeah,
real nice.
that
If
would be sweet.
they have no reason not to do that now, and if they don't do it, I feel like many people won't be happy. So
Yeah, it's true.
I really hope that that's what happens.
Yeah, I'm wondering like how much they're gonna lean in on it too, because like right now D&D Beyond's a pretty big thing. They have
Right.
tens of millions of people that use it. But I'm wondering if they're gonna go like kind of like the Microsoft approach. Currently D&D Beyond has like memberships.
Right.
I wonder if there's ever a world where they kind of go the Dungeons and Dragons goes the Microsoft approach and kind of allows the memberships almost like Game Pass, where Microsoft is buying up these studios and then throwing all their games on Game Pass, and you pay $15 a month and you get all the games. I wonder if D&D Beyond and Wizards of the Coast would think about something like that, where like you pay $15 a month or whatnot,
Right.
and you
And
get
have
access
all the
to
source books.
all the source books or something like that. I think that would be really cool.
I know there's
Um,
a thing like that right now where it's like you pay like I don't know, it's like a crazy amount of money. I forget how much, or maybe it's not even that crazy. It's like a few hundred, and I think it's like a one-time thing, and then you get all. I think it's all the source books or
really?
something.
On
I
D&D Beyond?
well, hang on. Let me see, right? Because there's like some package that you can get where you get like the all the source books that are there and all the ones that come out.
Hmm.
There's like some package.
Interesting.
Um,
Well, anyways, while you're looking
I'd
that
have to
up,
find it.
I think that could be a cool thing for the future. If they were to
Right.
go that approach, kind of like a subscription approach. Currently, D&D Beyond has subscriptions. The subscriptions right now allow you to like share content with other people, allow you to make an unlimited amount of characters, whatnot.
Right.
But I think it could be really cool, if they somehow implemented this idea of you get all the source books. I don't know if they'll do that because, currently people are paying for both online source books and physical, so they'd lose a lot of money there. But Wizards of the Coast
Right.
is chilling when it comes to money, so who knows? I guess we'll find out in the near future, potentially next week. But anyways, today we were going to talk about I just wanted to hit on that at the beginning, but we were going to talk about one-shot ideas and just different things.
Okay, I found the bundle I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like $800. Well, right now that's a discount. Normally it's like upwards of $900.
That's
Like
a lot.
913 something. And what it is all the current all 46 official digital source books and adventure books. There's like so there's 46 and you get all of those and then you get a 15% discount for any books that come out after you
Dang.
purchase the package.
And how
So
much you say it was? $800?
right now it's like 800 discounted. Oh, it discounts it for me because I already
Because
own
you
some
already own some.
yeah. So if you own some books already, it'll be a little bit cheaper. But normally, assuming you have no source books, and you're gonna buy that package, it's like $900,
Yeah, that's a good
which
amount of
is
money.
nuts. So it'd be crazy if you're doing that and you want the physical books, where you're gonna spend roughly 1.5 to 2 times as much money per book,
Yeah,
because normally you're getting it from a bookstore or something. It's a little bit more expensive.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. That's a lot of money. Anyways, yeah, so that's kind of cool. We'll potentially have more news on that next week. Once we watch. Oh, I think it's called D&D Direct. I think that's what it's called. The D&D Direct is next week,
Okay.
April 21st, I believe. And so maybe we'll watch that and do an episode on that. Talk about some of the stuff that was revealed there. But today again, we're gonna do some one shot ideas. And before we get into ideas for one shots, why don't we talk about a little bit about how to run a good one shot, or what a good one shot entails.
Right.
So there's a few different things. As someone who's run a one shot before, there's a few different things that I would recommend. I've run good one shots and I've run bad one shots. And I've been in both as well. One shots are tough because they have to end
Right.
conclusively. And something like a long campaign is a lot easier in that regard because you don't have to end every session. You can just say, like, we'll pick up next week from right here or whatnot. Now, obviously, DMs, we've talked about it before, but I would recommend trying to leave some sort of cliffhanger and ending on some sort of, cliffhanger to get your players to want to come back. But anyways, I digress. When it comes to one shots, you have to actually end the game, and it's tough to do that. So what I've found in terms of making a good one shot is a few things. First thing, again, like we talked about last week, that balance of railroading and freedom is tough, especially with a one shot, because you really only prep one story. You're not planning for them to go do a whole different thing than what you've planned.
Right.
So what I've found, in order to make one shots that are safe, I guess, and you can guarantee they'll work almost, is I recommend creating some sort of setting, giving them a few different options of what to do in that setting, without forcing them to do them in any order. And then once they've done all the things in that setting, having some conclusive event happen that, they do, and then end it. That's kind of what I would recommend. Let me give an example of that. My favorite one shot that I've ever ran, that I would 1,000,000% run again all the time if anyone ever asked to play, is this horror one shot that I ran. Were you there for that? I don't think you were there for that.
That was the one that I missed.
Yeah, we did that on Halloween, I think.
Yeah.
It was
I
2
think
Halloweens ago. That's
Was that the
crazy.
one where I wasn't there but my house was there, or was that the other one?
Wait, no, it wasn't 2 Halloweens ago. It was just during the summer, I think. No, it was not at your house. That was
Okay.
Laura ran that one. We did one at the Falcion's house. And
Okay.
here's kind of the premise of it. The group all can make whatever kind of characters they want, and suddenly, like, I announced it as, like, suddenly you and feel free to run this for your players, DMs, if you're listening, just give me credit. You suddenly wake up on an island. There's nothing else around. No other islands in sight, no boats in sight. It is storming rain, and it is extremely cloudy and gray and dark, and it is pouring rain. And in front of you, there's a large, creepy-looking concrete type building with a lighthouse on top. Um, and there's a path that leads up like this little hill up to it, and that's all that's on this island. This island's not very big, and then you have there's sitting in the rain in like a little booth under an umbrella is like this older gentleman that kind of looks like a butler, and basically he welcomes you all, asks where you're from. And again, I preface the one shot of you guys don't know what happened, where you are, where you're from. You remember your past, but you don't know how you got here. Basically, the butler welcomes them to Heinfroth Asylum, is what I called it. Heinfroth, I took the name from Van Richten's guide to Ravenloft. This whole one shot is kind of lightly based on that. It was mentioned in the book. But basically they go into the asylum just wondering where they are. The butler does not follow them. He stays where he is in this little booth with his umbrella, just kind of looking out at the ocean. If your players try to go in the water or whatnot, you can let them, but nothing's ever going to happen. They just might end up dying from trying to swim out to sea or whatnot. Yeah. Anyways, they go into the asylum, and it basically is a few different rooms. There's a hallway to the left, a hallway to the right, and a door, or like a big room that you start in, and a door at the end of that, and then a staircase that you assume leads up to the lighthouse. And that was it. That was the whole setting. There were 3 rooms. Actually, technically, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's like 6 rooms in the thing, because basically what I had happen was they were in this asylum and they had to look around. And basically, down each path, down each hallway, something would happen. They'd like fight something or whatnot. And I used a monster that's like basically skin of a human. It's just like a thing of skin that's like alive. And I used I had 4 players, so I used 4 of these skin monsters that looked exactly identical to the players, to each player.
Ooh.
So that was down one hallway. And then to skip it forward a little bit, because I'm kind of ranting, at the end of these 2 hallways were these rooms. One room was like a child's, not nursery, but like a child's room. And when they went in it, there were like these creepy marionette dolls in there that attacked. And so they had to like fight marionette dolls, and it was really creepy.
Dude, dolls and children are the scariest thing.
Well, so then
in real life too.
Anyways, the plot that I kind of came to was at the end of these hallways in these rooms was Mr. Heinfroth. I forget his first name, but there were 3 different rooms. There was, like I said, there was one kind of at the end of the main auditorium that you started in, and then there were these 2 side rooms. In the 2 side rooms, in the children's room was like a child. He's like probably 5 or 6, and he talks to the group. He tells them his name. His name was like Charles Heinfroth or something, or Victor Heinfroth or something. And like there's pictures all over the walls of like his imagination drawing different things and whatnot. And when they find him, he's hiding under the bed from these marionette dolls. And he basically explains that his mom keeps him very safe, and his mom is like really nice to him, and she loves him a lot, and she wants to keep him safe, so like he's not allowed to go outside and play and things like that. And as they walk down these hallways, I would say that everyone in their head heard this woman's voice, and I would read something depending on which hallway they went down. So when they went down towards the kid, it was something about like, I love you, son, like I'm going to keep you safe, whatnot. Then down the other hallway, there was where the skin was. It was in the hallway, and then if you went in that door, there was an older gentleman, not really old, but probably early 30s, longer hair, and there were it was the same layout of the room, but there were like drawings everywhere, like papers everywhere along all the walls on everything. And as you walked down this way, the voice that they heard was the same voice, maybe a tad older, yelling at someone. People assumed it's, the mom, basically saying like, "I love you so much. You're never going to leave me. Don't talk back to me. Shut
like
up."
it was the mom's voice, like
Yeah,
probably
it was
towards
like,
the kid.
"Don't
Gotcha.
talk back to me," or whatnot. And in the second room, they find this guy, but his tongue is cut out of his mouth. And you can tell from, like, if you do some investigation checks and stuff like that, you could tell that the pictures on the wall were him, like, he'll like draw stuff and write to the group if they need to, but like he's drawing like different things, but a lot of them look similar, like this strange object thing. And then on the wall, if you look very closely, there's an area where you find like a kind of like a newspaper article that says Dr. Heinfroth, or no, it says like insane scientist Dr. Heinfroth believes that, or Dr. Heinfroth believes they found the, like, they have created an invention to create eternal life or something like that. So the group's kind of like, weird. Like, Heinfroth is making an invention or whatnot. And then in the final room, and here's the other thing I did. So in order to force them to go into all these rooms, in kind of a cabinet in each one, there was a piece of a key that would unlock the final one. So they had to go down these first two hallways.
Right.
Either order, didn't matter which one they wanted to do first. And then they would go through this final double door at the end. They'd go through the final double door, and they would, again, it would look like the same layout of the room, but it was older. There was like a lot of the pictures or the papers had been like torn up and things like that. And there's like an extremely old man laying in a bed, breathing, but laying in a bed, like sleeping. And as they entered this room, they heard the woman's voice again, just kind of like, "It's going to be okay. I'll be here with you. Don't worry about it." Like something along those lines. I have specifically the quotes that I wrote down so that if I ever run it again, I just read them. But I think there was something to fight in this room, but I'm not positive. But there was, like, if they investigate in this room, there was a bookshelf that said Dr. Heinfroth wins award for machine of eternal life or something like that. Dr. Heinfroth has found the cure to eternal life or something like that. But also in the room are a few other like broken picture frames with articles in them as well that say things like, "The scientific community is against Dr. Heinfroth's machine for eternal life. Dr. Heinfroth's machine is evil and should not be looked at." Things like that. Should not be used. And then when they're in the final room, they find a light bulb, which they figure turns on the lighthouse. So they take the light bulb, you go up to the tower to the lighthouse, and once they screw the light bulb in, the lighthouse turns on, and the light kind of like shines in everyone's eyes really hard, and then everyone's vision like slowly fades to like brightness, or just to light, and then everyone wakes up strapped to like a metal bed, each one of them strapped to
Ooh.
a metal bed, with like tubes in their veins, running all like taking blood out, running to this giant like basin that's like filling with blood. And in the room there is an obelix, which is like basically I think it was an obelix or obelix, which is basically like this giant like blood slime monster thing.
Ooh.
But it's taking the form of a woman. And then
Oh.
on another bed on the other side of this basin, you see this basically just like skeleton, but with flesh on, like super skinny, like barely breathing individual laying in the other bed, still breathing. And the idea was basically, over a little bit of time, as the group wakes up, they realize that Dr. Heinfroth was the mother, and
Right.
and she's been keeping her son alive. But the way that
Uh-huh.
she's been doing it is she takes other people and straps them to the bed, and then uses some sort of invention and puts the blood into her son and keeps him alive, basically the whole time. So the final boss fight happens in this lab where they kind of break out. You fight the Obelix or the Obelix, whatever, and actually their son has stats as well, and he can do like some psychic things and attack as well. But basically, you like kill her or whatever, and the group can kind of look around the room. Find there's a few more articles in there that say more things about, Dr. Heinfroth and what she did and whatnot. And then there's like cellar doors to leave this room that you're in. And as soon as the group opens the cellar doors, the rain begins to hit them again from outside, and everyone loses their memory again. And the butler greets them again and says like, "Hello, where are you from?" And the whole thing restarts. So
Ooh,
like
it's
it's
a
like a loop forever that they're stuck in, as like people. So
Wow.
that was my one shot. It kind of, again, that was a long explanation, but that's the one I'm bringing to the table that I really like. It gives them freedom to explore different ways that they want to. It's a little railroad where they have to find pieces of a key to get into the last room, which will lead them to the end. But they can do it any way they want, and they can go any way they want. And I think actually I also put in like, 2 other rooms that were like trap door rooms. I had like traps in them to extend the game even a little longer. But it was a cool story because like I forget exactly. I'd have to check my notes. It's been over like 8-10 months since I ran it. But I remember like the idea of it was for everyone to assume that like the kid was Dr. Heinfroth. The guy was Dr. Heinfroth as they go through these different rooms and what they actually find. But as they get to the end, they realize that his mother is actually the one keeping him alive. And so I got the idea from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, which is like a source book that helps you design different horror campaigns and one-shots and things. But the mother idea and that whole thing, basically all it says in there is Heinfroth Asylum, where you see a guy living at different points in his life, and that's like the only sentence. And I was like, I'm going to make this even cooler. But that's my one shot. So it it allowed freedom. It has a conclusive end that's cool because it's like, oh my gosh, they're stuck in there forever. And they just loop, and they're stuck in the machine. Like the machine, like the world that they're in is not actually the real world. It's some sort of strange domain or something that is caused because of this machine. Yeah, I thought it was cool. That's my one shot that I that I brought to this podcast.
Yeah, that's a cool one shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like stuff where it's where it's like a loop.
Yeah, I do too. I
Yeah.
remember at the end when I was very specific with my words when they met the butler. Like, I think he literally was like, "Welcome to Heinfroth Asylum." Like, "Where are you from?" or something like that. And as like the rain hit them again and they lost all of their memory of what just happened, I said like the same thing to them, and then that's where it ended. So it was like a cool ending of like, oh my
Right.
gosh. But yeah, that's the one shot I would recommend. If you listen to that and you're like, yo, I want to run that, feel free to reach out to me. I'll give you all the notes that I have for it. I kind of wrote a whole thing for it, and I can tell you the exact names of the monsters and whatnot. I don't have it in front of me, but that was one that I ran that was cool. But I know you have some ideas, so let me let you talk now.
I mean, I don't have like one that I've run before, so I can't tell you like an
Right.
entire story.
That's okay.
But I had an idea for one shot that's actually kind of similar. Like I took the idea of like, oh, it'd be like a loop, where these players kind of find themselves in like a heavily wooded like area, and it could be like it's almost like a town, but it's all like cabiny and like very woodsy. Everything's like kind of far apart. But they could they could wake up or they're like in a tavern, and at some point yeah, it's like one of those like really cliche starts where like, oh, you guys are in a tavern, someone's like willing to hire like your group for like work, but it's like this old lady and takes them to her like to her cabin where she lives, and it's yeah, there it's like it could be like kind of creepy, but I wouldn't make the cabin like too sus. Like, they'd see like some like maybe some like bloody farm equipment, but she'd always have some explanation for it. And she
Mm-hmm.
would talk a lot about like her dead husband or something, right?
Mm.
And then they basically the reason she's hiring them is because she's like it could be anything. Like, oh, these like werewolves or whatever it is keep on like ransacking like my garden, right? Um so, the group can get sent out on this mission, and it kind of is like a maze almost in like dark woods. Uh and like there's kind of like a path to it or whatever. Like they or like when they find the werewolves, they have to like chase after them and they end up in a maze or something.
Hmm.
And then uh eventually like they'll lose track of the werewolves, and then some like dark, like shadowy masked figure or whatever starts attacking them with like farm equipment. And the idea is you would set things up to lead them to believe that like maybe it's like her dead husband that's like attacking
Mm.
the group, and then at some point I would have some reveal that it's actually her, and like she
Ooh,
lures adventuring groups to like help her fight off wolves and then kills them in her yard or something.
that's wild.
Yeah.
So how let's expand on that idea. Well, like gameplay wise,
Uh-huh.
how do you think it would happen? Because I think I asked that because one thing that I would also add is I think one thing that's really important with one shots is that as much as you want to tell the story, you don't want to sacrifice gameplay.
Right.
You want to make sure that everyone's playing more than the DM is talking about the story.
Right.
Which is why, like, even in Heinfroth Asylum, which is the name of it, like, I barely tell much story at all unless they're asking
Right.
about it. I give them like a few sentences, but it's all up to them to ask about it or
Right.
figure it out. So how would you? Now you don't have to take that approach, but how do you think gameplay wise it would go?
So we
Or
can
like how
we
it
can
would play
imagine
out?
what it would feel like. It mostly feel like a narrative leading up to the house, which is fine. But then, like I said, her backyard is kind of like a wooded maze, right?
Yeah.
So you break off and there's different like they're not really rooms, but they're definitely like kind of enclosed areas, it feels like, and you're surrounded by like a garden, so you think nothing of it, but slowly they would see this map ends up looking like a maze. And in each room, you know, area, there'd be like, a werewolf or two or like other like different monsters. Like it could be a bunch of different things. And like each time they end up in a new place, they have to like fight those off. And then, I'd hide items throughout, and they would all be like I would probably use like base items, but then I'd be like, this thing is like this
I
piece
think
of
it
farm
could be
equipment or
cool.
whatever.
Yeah. I think it could be cool too if like somehow you made it, maybe it was tweaked a bit, but it was like you told the characters going into it like you're explorers or whatnot, or you're like adventurers or detectives or something like that,
Right.
that are given the opportunity somehow to go to like this property. Maybe there's a cabin on the property, there's like a cornfield or something, there's like a creepy ass back shed or something.
Mm-hmm.
And you give them all these different places that they could go on the property.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, maybe hide things, maybe even to make it even cooler and give it more of that horror effect. Maybe they don't have much equipment when they start. And
Right.
yeah, like what they find on the property is what they're going to be able to use.
Right.
But like as they explore places, maybe depending on how many they explore, or depending on if something else is triggered or something, different things happen that progress the story. So, because then that would give them the freedom to go where they want and feel like they have the ability to investigate.
Right.
So I guess my question is, what what do you think about that idea of kind of making like a property that they can explore, they can have the
Right.
freedom to investigate, but then depending on what's triggered around the property leads to the final climactic like event of
Right.
werewolves or her.
The climactic event I think would be like fighting her, but
That'd be cool.
I would make it so that it's like they encounter things that are like really hard to kill and it does a good amount of damage to them. Like I'd figure that out
Yeah.
so that in an ideal scenario, they don't make it out alive and the old
Mhm.
lady ends up killing them. So it'd be like they could run into like any number of encounters, but once it hits like a certain amount and like I see like, they lose
Yeah.
a certain amount of HP, then the old lady like starts attacking them or something.
Yeah. I think
Then
the risk that I could see, the potentially, is, and this is actually one thing that I thought through with Heimfroth. The risk with that too, I think, and I would have to do this more to know, but like making it like really risky or difficult.
right.
The one problem you run into is like if someone dies early, then
They won't
like
be
the
happy.
rest of the game is boring, and
Yeah.
because they can't play anymore. So one thing that I actually thought through with Heimfroth is even if they died going into the rooms and whatnot, which actually one of the characters did, they still wake up at the end in a bed next to everyone else. So they like
Gotcha.
continue playing.
They're still part of the final encounter.
Yeah, they're still part of that. So how, like, I think that's a good
If
idea.
people died early, how would I incorporate them?
Yeah. Or like, because you don't want people to like, again, sacrifice gameplay for the sake of just like a cool story where everyone's
Right.
probably gonna die.
Yeah.
You don't want them to feel like they got there and then 20 minutes in they're done playing,
Right.
So I guess the answer to that would probably just be not make it too hard until the
Yeah.
end. But that's kind of tough to do because you don't really necessarily know what too hard is and what's too easy.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's the only problem I could really see running into with it. But if you were like to design like a cool like creepy farm with like a corn maze and like silos and a creepy
Yeah, that's
old
kind of like
tool shed
that
and
do is like a bunch of like creepy like horror stuff and
yeah,
then
that could be cool. Like, and then
Yeah.
maybe like in the corn maze there's a werewolf, and in the tool shed there's, I don't know, like tools that come to life or something crazy.
maybe I would make it so that like the group could probably like beat the old lady in the end, but I'd want them to at some point like through investigating stuff come to the realization that this lady hires groups all the time and they never
They never
make it
solve
out
it.
alive. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be cool. That could
then,
easily
like,
be done
she
too.
attacks
Like,
him, and they're like, this is why people don't make it out alive, is because she brings him here to kill him.
well, yeah. So maybe it could even be something like this. Even on along the same lines of the Heinfroth Asylum, like maybe there's like a room in her house that is locked,
Right.
like hard locked. Maybe like even just for the sake of it, you put like 3 or 4 locks on it,
Mhm.
and the group's thought process, you set it up in a way of like, obviously she's hiding something in there,
Right.
and you let them come to the conclusion themselves that they want to get in that room.
Mhm.
But the keys are hidden all over the
Throughout,
property.
yeah.
That'll force them to go exploring, but allow them the freedom to do it the way they want to do it. They bring all the keys back, and then I don't know, maybe in the room she's like, there's like some creepy slime monster,
Dead bodies.
like I did, or like
Dead bodies
dead
in the room.
bodies.
And she's standing over one.
Yeah, or like she's doing something creepy in there.
Yeah.
And then that becomes the final fight, because that forces them to explore, but allows them freedom to do it how they want. It gives them motive. It also, one thing that I heard yesterday, actually, I was editing a podcast for a sales team.
Oh, yeah?
And I actually agree with this, and it makes total sense, is that people love coming to their own conclusions more than they love being told what is correct. So like if you can make it so that someone in your game is like, wait a minute, I get it, or like it's all coming together, then it's always going to be better than you just telling them. So like in terms of the mystery of why people are never showing up and whatnot, think about what that would look like, in terms of your world. Maybe you're hiding different pieces of different articles, or different I don't know, pieces of clothing or whatnot, so that they have to go figure it out and be like, wait a minute, like they're not coming back because they're all dying.
Right.
I get it. Instead of being like the grandma's like, I have been killing them all.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think that could be cool too.
Yeah.
Like people love coming to the conclusion
Like
themselves.
at the beginning, if you show them like pictures of the different groups, like, oh, this one was the last group to come in, and you describe them in detail, and then later on they find a dead body, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's like
that
one of
guy.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's something I'm trying to incorporate into our full campaign, but also, any one shots that I plan on trying, is like allowing people to come to the conclusion themselves. Maybe forcing the conclusion a bit, or like making sure that they come to the conclusion you want them to, but not forcing the conclusion on them, because then it loses some of the eureka moment.
Right.
But that could be really cool. I'm down. I think that could be. I don't know why we spoke specifically about scary one shots, but
Yeah, I had it because they're so cool, dude. And now I had another idea for this, right? So she basically claims that her late husband is haunting like her house and her yard, right? And um any werewolves or stuff, you can make them like ghost versions, right? So the idea is it's haunted, but like she claims that the late husband is bringing all this uh like these hordes of like ghosts or like whatever, and he's doing the haunting, right? And then at some point they could, I don't know why I had this idea, they find a scarecrow, but it's like it smells awful, and
it's like
they
him.
realize it's the husband. Like
That'd be
they'll
cool.
like recognize him from like a photo or something that she shows them.
That'd be cool.
Like that'd be cool too. And then yeah, they can find like dead bodies from like other like groups or whatever that have tried before to like get rid of the
I don't know
ghosts.
why I've been thinking about this since you started talking about it. If you've ever played Red Dead Redemption 2, there's a cabin in the woods somewhere where if you go to it, there's a man and a woman who basically welcome you to their home. They give you food, assuming you're just like a traveler. And they give you food, but you can kind of look around their cabinet and whatnot, and you can find things like you find a frame that, of them and their parents. It's a brother and sister. You find a frame of them and their parents, and they talk about how their parents died and things like that. And they give you food and basically drug you. And then you wake up being like tied up and taken out to like be killed somewhere. But you also find out that like the couple or the brother and sister are like in an incestuous relationship.
Ugh.
And that they killed their parents because their parents didn't like it or something like that.
Ugh.
It's something along those lines. But for some reason the thought process kept coming back, which is really creepy and weird. But like what you could do is like you could have the woman constantly talking about how much she like hates her brother or something, and then talks about like how her husband died or something, and then somehow make them actually the same person. Like, oh my God, her brother is her husband or like something. But like making it really weird so that the whole time the group thinks that like the husband and the brother are two different people and trying to figure out how they connect to one another. But then at the end they realize that they're both the same person somehow. I don't know why an incestuous redneck couple sounds so creepy and why it's used in a lot of things, but it does. I don't know. That was something I just thought of.
There are a lot of options you could go with here with old lady with a creepy cabin.
Yeah, it's true. There's
so I guess
an orchard of ideas.
That idea, yeah, an orchard, a whole corn maze,
maze of ideas,
a bushel of apples of ideas.
Yep.
Other like not full ideas like that with a path, but just like different formats. That I've thought about, and I've talked to you about some of these. The idea of like a more lighthearted, fun one shot where you do like a Secret Santa thing. So everybody makes a character for somebody else to play for that one shot.
Yeah,
or a short
that would be
campaign,
fun.
what have you. Like that would be very fun. Like you are coming to this one shot, but someone else is going to hand you a character that they've made for you to play, and you have to play that character as they are.
Yeah.
Like that's a fun idea to
Yeah,
me.
I think that would be fun.
The
We've
other
done
one,
to so many different
similar-
one-shots.
Huh?
I was going to say, we've done a lot of different one-shots. We've done one-shots where, you're Santa's elves on the Polar Express. We've done one-shots. I did a one-shot where we were like pirates looking for like a temple, and like a bunch of kids were going missing from a town. That was the one we did at your house when you weren't there.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
A bunch of kids were going missing from this town, and then we found out that all the kids were not going missing. They were just like creepy, like magical monster things. And so then like a bunch of kids attacked us, and we killed a bunch of kids. That was our DM's first time ever running a one shot, and by the end of it they were like, you know what, maybe we switch it up.
A little too dark.
If you don't make a bunch of kids the bad guy. But what were you gonna say? Sorry, I interrupted you.
Another like format I had for like starting a one shot is kind of similar to the Secret Santa character idea, is like a white elephant version where everyone brings a character that they've made and kind of puts it on the table, and then
you just grab one
sort of white elephant exchange for the character. Like you give like a brief description of the character and put it in, so then everyone knows what's there. And yeah, the same thing.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
It's picked twice and then it's locked in, whatever.
I know I had an idea for a one shot for Halloween where you run like a very basic story where like it's like a bunch of knights trying to fight a dragon or whatnot.
Or like a standard dungeon crawl or something.
Yeah, but by the end of it, like right before they're about to slay the dragon or something, like you hear one of the characters hears their mom call out to them, and then you kind of snap out of it and you just look around and it's like a bunch of kids in Halloween costumes.
That's
and like
cool.
all the things they ran into were just like household items or whatnot, and they were just like playing in their basement or something. I thought that
That's-
one would be like kind of fun and like lighthearted and cute. But then I was
Yeah.
like, it's kind of too meta because that's like what we're doing when we play normal D&D
Yeah,
to a
but
degree. But I
think
thought it would be
it's
fun and
still a cool
lighthearted.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah, cute little story.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do
Do
with
like a
one
desert
shots.
version of that, and the kids like come to, and they're just like in a sandbox or something.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the idea, yeah, like that kind of stuff, and potentially set it up in a way where they're running around their neighborhood collecting candy on Halloween night, dressed as knights and rogues and stuff like that. Maybe they fight like a bully or something, or I don't know. But the bully is described as like a big evil monster with snot dripping out of its nose, and I don't know. But anyways, we've been going for 50 minutes, so time flies.
Probably our longest episode yet.
I think our longest one was an hour.
Really?
I think Laura's episode was an hour, yeah. But anyways, there's a lot you can do with one shots. Again, we reiterate, don't sacrifice gameplay for story. Make sure that the gameplay is the best part. And then the best way to do the story is let them figure it out themselves. And if they don't, they don't. But don't force the story upon them. Let them discover it themselves by, hiding little clues, or answering questions. Answering questions if they ask them. But don't just tell them everything. Let them discover it on their own. They'll have more fun, and let them, make sure that the gameplay is still there and they can feel like they're playing a good game of D&D.
Yeah.
And you'll have a much easier time coming to a conclusion that way too, when you do that. But yeah, anything else you have to say, Josiah?
No. This has been a good time with Dungeons and Dragons and one good time.
Wow, that was a great sentence. All right,
Yeah.
cool. Well, thanks everybody for listening.
Yeah.
Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We put out episodes every Wednesday, unless I get lazy and I don't. But we stream every Thursday, the new episode. So if you want to watch an episode a week early, watch us live on Twitch, twitch.tv/gunkball or twitch.tv/tweaking
Taquito.
Tweaking Taquito.
Tweaking Taquito.
And as always, you can just check the links in the description and whatnot. Yeah, we'll be back next Wednesday. Actually, we'll be back next Thursday. Sorry, with a review of this D&D Direct thing that's coming out.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that'll be fun.
We'll talk about that.
Cool. All right,
Sweet.
dude. Peace, man.
All right.